So I'm going to make a new invoice that reflects a credit that has been given to that invoice. Somebody might pay for something and then they'll partially pay, and then that new invoice needs to be given to them to show what is still left over to be paid. If I were to pull this, goodness gracious, why can I not display it? If I pull up this invoice, I see that the total of the invoice is $531.92. The customer just called me and said, hey, we've got a credit. I would like to apply it to that invoice. And I did. And now you see that that invoice is only $477.77. So she said, send me the balance so I can pay that. Well, I cannot put a new invoice in here. That will mess up everything. So what I do is I take the invoice that they just paid on and I print it to a PDF, which you should already know that that's saved in the C drive, and all these folders is how we'll find it in a minute. I can write this down if I can't remember what it was. So I've saved that, and I need to know how much they've paid on it. So I can go over here to the document number and right click it and copy. Go to their payments, because that's how I will find how much they paid. And in the apply to column, I'm going to right click and go filter on apply to and paste that number that I just copied, apply filter. So now I see that they have paid $54.15 towards that invoice right here. I'm going to pull that invoice up, go to folders, C drive, 3 apps, temporary folder, and this is the invoice that I just saved. So I'm picking it up. When I pick it up, sometimes it'll come up, sometimes it's down here flashing in the Safari. I guess it's Edge now, it used to be Safari. I see that the total was $531.92, and now I'm going to change that. So literally all I'm doing is drawing this in here. Add text. I click here and I say minus 54, I don't remember what it was. 54.15. $54.15. I'm going to change that to black. Make it a little bit bigger to kind of match. So 54.15, and now I'm going to draw a line. Put it underneath it, and I'm going to then put the total amount that's left, $477.77. Sometimes I'll write the word balance. And I really, really want it to be seen. So then sometimes I will circle it, and because I really definitely don't want them to pay this $531.92 again, because they've already paid. And then I save it. And when I do this, I normally go back over here and copy the invoice number. Let's see. And I change this, the title of this, to invoice, and that title, that thing. I normally also, I push Control X, that cuts it, and I go to Documents, Correspondence, and I save it in a folder with their name on it. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to have to do this every single time, because you wouldn't believe how many people ask for this and then call me back and go, hey, I need everything that we owe, and they never used that modified invoice. So I just keep it in a folder with their name on it, so I never have to do that again for them. So I usually just save it in a folder with their name on it, and I usually put their customer number and the date. And what I did, I say I emailed this on this date. But that's basically what I do to get a new credit to them. And then I've set up an email that I've already fixed up for them. And then I attach, go to correspondence, and Somerset at Madison, and I attach that. Sometimes I go ahead and double check, make sure it's actually the one I wanted to send, just so that I'm not making a fool out of myself later. And I send this. In addition to the last part of the video, I thought that I should add, when I enter a check into Eagle, I always open the ROA and see if that check has been paid. For instance, 409778, they've put that on their memo, and I want to see if it's been paid. And so I look at invoices. If I don't see that it's here, I know that it's probably been paid for already, or I'm in the wrong Eagle Point apartments. So I go to Payment and Credits. I right click on Apply To and click Filter on Apply To, and I put in the invoice number that they wanted to pay, or that they put on their memo, and I say Apply Filter. In this case, I see that a credit paid for this already. I can do one of two things. I can let them know, hey, your credit already paid for this, in which case they'll probably be like, no, 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 I didn't authorize that. I want that credit to go to something else later. I'm going to go ahead and pay for this invoice. Or they're going to say, oh, okay, well, just send me the check back. More than likely, they know they've got that credit and they're going to put it on something later. And they're just paying for this invoice now, which is fine. If I've already applied the credit to it, that's not a big deal. I can right click on the document that is the credit. I go to, open item. I go to document number and I right click and I paste in that document number here. Then I say display. Right now it's applied to this. I can totally delete that and push change. I'm not going to. I want this credit applied to that. But I can say that and then go to change. I'm telling you this because maybe I pulled this up and it wasn't a credit. It was actually a check. It was a payment that they've made prior. And it would tell me a check number here. It would say a P here. And that means that I know that this check has already been paid for, as is the case here. I put the word already when I typed it into order entry, and I put in that they have a check. I put already, and then I put the invoice number that they have on their memo, because I want them to know, hey, you've already paid for this. I always make myself a little note here that says invoice was already paid via check 6213. So now I know 6213 paid for that, and so did 5148. And now they want, say they've called me and they're like, hey, I need all my invoices that are open or whatever. Now I'm going to make that invoice change just like I showed you before. And the reason I'm going through all that is for this particular item right here. Now I have made, this credit, and I mark out the word invoice, I type the word credit here, and I explain what it's about. And in the last part of the video, I didn't put any notes here. However, I probably would now. That video was a little bit older. I'm just adding to it now. I just say this is a credit. This invoice was paid twice, once with check 6213 and again with check 5148. And then I put a little negative number here by pushing the text box option and the underscore, which is shift and the minus sign. That'll do a little underscore and that'll make a line too. So that's what I do there. One more thing. When you're sending invoices to someone, you definitely look in the Open Invoice tab, but you also look over here at the unapplied documents. These are really important. If I click on unapplied documents and I see that I've got 2 credits here, then I definitely want to send those credits. And this is the way we find them. We push Control R and I'm going to look down. There's one for $13.94. There's the $13.94. 3724. 3724. Great. I'm going to double click that. And I'm going to push image and do the same thing we did before. I like to name them what they should be. I have put a pinned folder here that I put the temp folder here so that I don't have to go through the C drive every time. But here's this temp folder. Here's the one I just made. I put a view in the right hand side by when I view it, I have the preview pane. That way when I click on it, I can change it to the word credit and 571397, which is the number of the credit memo. I do this because there's so many people who ask for it multiple times, and I don't want to do this a million times. And then also I pinned I right-clicked, by the way, down here on the folder. I pinned the correspondence folder. I made this folder. It wasn't in here already. And then I go to that person's account, whatever it is. It's not really this one. But then I would highlight this and click and drag it into here so that it would always be there. Let's see. Yeah, that's a really important detail that I left out earlier. And I feel like that's the last one. We'll see.